can start to show us your question was, the heat is lacking now. We have, maybe they said we have 700 mile taking care of that issue right now. Can we place the elementary school for us to do that? One shot. And what, since we can still get parts from this for, it's undersized, with 50 horsepower motors.
Okay, that might be better to have this,
Yeah, okay.
Eric on that one. Our problem is, we can put a 50 horsepower motor on that, we can pump that water clear down to the bridge. But, the problem we have is, when that water, when we cannot maintain the 160 to 180 degree temperature to heat those rooms, because we are not, because of the size of the boilers, we have to be able to have the heat coming from the boiler to go to the room.
And I understand that, I just thought it was a word issue.
No, it is a horsepower issue also, but our horsepower issue is not overriding our boiler size issue. So we can put bigger pumps on it, but that's not gonna cure our problem. When our water, there is times in the winter time where we're barely maintaining 130 degree water temperature on our boilers, with both boilers running full bore.
So there's, what do we got? Three, and two. The three of us want to do all of HVAC, the vestibule, and the stairs, right? Three of us wanna do HVAC in elementary school, the vestibule, and the stairs. And two of us want to look at other options. What's that?
I like just doing
The elementary school? Okay, so there's four.
And vestibule?
And the
Well, yeah.
vestibule and the stairs,
That option.
or, I can wait on the stairs
Yeah.
until
Yes.
the high school gets done.
Is that something we do now?
We could, I mean,
The stairs.
the stairs,
It might give us another option
stairs are
if the boiler goes.
214,079.
Yeah, but if the boiler goes or something happens in the meantime and the stairs are already done, we have some options.
Right,
May I speak on the stair issue?
absolutely.
The stair issue is becoming a safety issue,
Okay,
because the outside wall of those stairs is crumbling in.
it is, I
And
looked at it.
that is becoming, not only is it gonna become a mechanical issue for getting stuff in and out, it's becoming a safety issue. We have a collapse on that.
Is there any way we can start that with this first phase? Is it, but then it's just done, even if we go forward,
Yeah.
instead of putting it along? You know, then it's just, we're at least ahead of the game.
Fix it. There is no fix.
I mean,
To replace it?
Can you get somebody, an independent contractor to come look at it?
Yes, we could. But there again, we also have to get that will have to be completely engineered. We'll have drawn up, all the stuff that the Corps is doing,
Corps
we
did.
still have to get all that.
And then
We
just ask
can't,
the contractor what their opinion is.
pardon?
Just maybe ask the contractor what their opinion is.
You keep trying to put residential rules into the commercial rules.
Correct.
and they're
Thank you,
different.
Jen.
Thank
They're
you.
not the same, you're not playing by the same rules. And that's the state, the law dictates that.
Correct.
You can't say, I'll get Joe off the street here, give you a quote, come in, because it's not, he still has to get an engineer, he has to get stamped blueprints, has to be built, has to be inspected. Because you're in a public building, it's different.
And there's all gonna be admin fees associated with that, just like McCour's. No, nobody does it for free.
Yeah, we pay for 5 engineering costs. It's not gonna make anything
Yeah.
go down. You know?
The county got a grant to have people come in and do an assessment. Did you guys do anything like that?
Pretty
What
sure-
kind of an assessment?
Like they're doing an assessment of all the buildings that belong to the county and everything to see see how they can make them more energy efficient.
Well, that's
That's
what,
what
that's
he
what
did.
McClure and Verigy
Verigy
did,
did.
that's why we had them come in.
Right, did you get a grant for that, or are we paying for that, like, or is his percentage?
It's typically
and-
built into the construction costs already, so it's typically built into their proposals. When they come out and do an estimate or proposal. it's
Yeah, we weren't
typically-
charged up front
Yeah,
for
you're
it.
not getting charged up front. They want the project.
Where are we with the steps?
Where are we with the steps?
I think it's a good idea.
I think
to
if,
do that.
if it's a safety issue, then we need to get them done.
I think so.
Yes, okay.
Anything like a hot water tank or anything like that would have to come down.
Because I've looked at them and they're cracked pretty
So
bad.
the steps are in now, right?
Pardon?
Yeah, they're in there,
Okay.
200.
Yeah, they're in there. So we are to the,
Vestibule, HVAC for the elementary and the stairs. And that is, 4 to 2 and 2.
It's a what?
Four people to 2 people to 2 people. 4 people are for the vestibule now, the HVAC system in the elementary school now, and the stairs now. 2 people are for HVAC for both schools, the vestibule and the stairs, and 2 people are no.
No, I think you're
Yeah,
gonna
I
have to
think we
table it,
should.
but I think if you at least have something to give me to get with Eric to create, that we can then vote on this is the project and not have to start pulling and pushing things out.
extra packet for money?
Well, we're all
We
gonna
can
get a new
email
one.
it to 'em.
You'll get a new one. I can give you mine. Cause I,
she's talking about the presentation.
I can
Yeah.
give them mine.
Oh, here's the presentation.
No, the big one.
Oh, the big one.
This isn't from the email,
I probably do. I have some other stuff.
Me,
I have some other stuff in here, I'll explain it, no, I can just say mine. Yeah, you sure? And there's some other stuff in there that I can explain to what it is, that they already have.
So yeah, this is just for the purpose of what does Rhonda have to go back to McClure with and the additional language from the solicitor.
And I'll get that to, yeah, we'll go.
Correct.
So, are you guys, at the very least, the Woodland HVAC vestibule and stairs? So who all, do you think we have 5 people to come vote on that?
I don't know.
If that's what we
Maryland's
decide to
a
do,
yes.
if that's what we decide to do the contract, then I'll go ahead and do it for that. I mean, that's for the proposal.
That's, you're good with
I'm good
that.
with that.
and
Dave is.
and
Sheila.
I mean, it's one school, I guess, is better to have heat than both, than none at all,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so, okay, that's what we'll do.
Can we go through and tell me what everybody's for, one at a time, so I get this correct?
Cause Christy and Kelly, nothing.
Without
No, I think we need stuff. I think we need to
Yeah,
explore
no,
other
I think in the
options.
contract, I think in the contract, this contract, the McClure project. is
Yeah,
what we're
I'm not
talking
for
about,
it.
The way it is,
nothing.
they wanna investigate other avenues.
Okay, let's, you're, all right, what did you want?
Everything.
I am going with the HVAC in Woodland, the stairs and the vestibule.
Okay. I think that's what he wanted also.
Correct.
Okay, same for you.
Same for me.
I mean, I'll say it out loud, I wanted the HVAC in both schools, that's the one stairs.
Yeah, that's what I originally wanted. But I mean, if we're gonna get, no, I'm saying, I thought you meant what, like, that's what I originally wanted. It was an HVAC in both schools. HVAC in both schools,
Okay.
vestibule
And stairs.
and the stairs. But I only want the
And
bond
that's
to be for the
Sheila's
HVACs.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Vanessa, you're one.
I originally wanted both also, but I am changing to just do the Woodland. I think we need to have heat in both buildings, but
Just,
looking, yeah,
just pick one or the other, that's all she wants. What-
Yeah,
which
I
one is
just,
it?
just Woodland for
My
now.
wife warned me of that.
that's Katie.
The stairs and the vestibule.
Okay.
And then a few years down the road, we'll look at phase two.
And so the, yeah.
Yeah, good job, good answer.
Good answer, yeah.
Plus Tony's not sworn in, so he's really not allowed to vote on anything.
He's not voting, I'm asking his opinion as a board member.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't want to, he's not, then that's
Okay,
fine,
okay.
that's his answer.
The stairs you're gonna, that's not in the bond,
No,
No.
or the vestibule.
nor the vestibule.
Okay.
No. We will only put the HVAC in the bond. And that cost for the Woodland, correct me if I'm wrong, is 4.655 million. So,
But that's not what it's gonna be, right? Because your fees and stuff aren't figured into that 4 million.
So what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll remove all the scope that you've asked me to remove today. I'll re-pull it back together, and I'm assuming the price is gonna be the price that I showed you earlier, plus performance bond and project bond, which goes on the bottom line.
yep.
I'll hold my price that I showed you before, I'm not gonna change that.
I was just asking.
I know I do this. My fees are in the cost of the project, so it's embedded
In all of it, okay.
in all, correct, you pay one firm figure, you don't pay. Like with an engineer and architect, you would pay the architect 7% and the engineer 7% on top of the total cost. So if it was $20 million, you would pay them 7% of $20 million for mechanical, and then the architect would get 7% of that. In this case, we have our fees embedded in the cost.
So wait, are we amending the motion to table this?
So we are, yes,
You
we'll
would have to
amend the
amend
motion to table the board approval for the McClure Energy Savings Project contract until we receive an updated contract with the revised scope of work.
I also feel we should apologize to these folks that have driven all this way numerous times to present to us, and we haven't even had the scope of this figured out, and we just keep having you come back. So I personally would like to apologize, but I think we need to figure this out before we.
Didn't we just didn't we come to a conclusion?
And I thought we came to a conclusion before, like to a 5-3
Yeah.
vote.
We did.
We did.
So we did have it figured out.
But then it kept changing.
Well, I mean, it keeps changing because nobody wants to, take a stand on.
Tony gets to vote twice, right?
And then motion to table the McClure project until,
The updated contract is received with the updated scope of work.
contract.
In language. Take our next. So are you?
Yep, I think the solicitor should review it and all of that, before we put it.
Solicitor already has reviewed it. And that's what Ron is going back to support with, is her updated language. So that won't affect the scope of work sections. There'll just be fewer in those
So
sections.
it's Woodland HVAC, the stairs.
Are you okay with amending your motion? Yes, both of you? Okay, so all in favor of tabling this project until, we're voting on this project until, we receive the updated contract? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So 4.3, board approval is requested to approve the bond purchase agreement for the McClure Energy Savings Project. Based on our last, I think we should modify this to table that as well. Huh? Well, we'll
I make a motion. to
make a
table.
motion to table it, but we can still discuss it. Anyone wanna second it? Second. Anything you guys would like to say to us?
Is it okay if I
obviously with the change of numbers, it's gonna be a smaller borrowing than anything we prepared or talked about when I was here earlier this year. Right. So, I know the number, the $880,000, that's your annual principal interest that you pay now on all your outstanding debt. The school year that we just started, and 2 more, those payments, they're fixed. So it's $880,500 a year. Those payments, 2 more years. So the idea, and I know it's talked about, do we need a budget increase, is it budget neutral? If the new payments are less than $880,000, we can do that. You can make a minimal payment the first 2 years. You're required to pay $5,000, so you would have a minimal payment the first 2 years until I'll call your old debt is done. Then we would fill in, structure the payments as such to be as close to that $880,000 a year as we can for every year going forward for however many years you need. Now again, you threw out a lot of different numbers today. I'm not gonna pretend to do that math in my head. We can look at it and I'll get back to you with more information, but I can't tell you exactly how many years that would be with the interest cost. That would be the budget neutral way to do it. I know there was talk about, well, we'll pay it off in 5 years. You certainly can do that, and you will have budget impact. If we put $4.6 million over 5 years, you're gonna have a budget impact. You're not gonna do that, because if you say 5, well, there's really only 2, because we still have that $880,000 for the next 3 years. $880,000 for 2 years doesn't pay off 4.6. So if you wanna see it for 5 years, I can tell you what the increase in your payments would be. Prior to tonight, my understanding was we wanted to keep it budget neutral. So if something has changed, I need direction on what you want to see. That make sense? So, we can look at that. We wanna look at 4.6 project, if there's a different number. There's so many ideas thrown around. I tried to write them all down. I don't know that I got them all, but I certainly can.
We'll have Eric get back to us with what the number is for what the new scope is, and then Ron.
Yes, so we can do that and look at what the debt payment will be. Now am I getting the consensus that, hey, we wanna stay at that $880,000 and see how many years it takes us? Is that?
Can you give us both proposals of
Sure.
if we'd stay at the 880 versus the lesser payment? Like
Which
if-
would be a year thing, so.
Yeah.
The 880 would be the lesser payment. If you wanted to pay it all off in 5 years, you're gonna have a bigger payment.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just saying, if we don't do it in the 5 years, if we were to just take out that 4.6 million, once our bond is paid for in 3 years, what is that new payment gonna be at the 4.6 million? If it's not budget neutral, is it less?
That's gonna depend on how many years you want to spread the payment out.
Correct.
And I could do 5
What's a standard
different
bond?
options. That's why I need some idea what your
20 years
interest
standard
is.
bondage.
Now,
Was
we
it standard
can't go-
bond month?
No, for the energy savings project,
Right.
the maximum number of years you can do is 20. That's part of that legislation that dictates what Eric and Laura is presenting to you. It also dictates some rules on how you finance it. So we can go 20 years or less on the payments. We can't go longer than, now, old-fashioned construction, you build a new building, we're allowed to have our payments longer than 20 years. But for this type of project, it's a max of 20 years. So we can keep it at the budget neutral, see how many years that is.
Okay.
Maybe start with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, cause where I was getting at was, if we stretched it out a little bit and we could reap some savings on the payment, we could invest that savings to help offset.
And that was the next thing I was gonna bring up. After listening to the conversation, and again, I'm just trying to interpret what I'm hearing from all of you. If there is, hey, we might have a phase 2 to do the high school project. So here's the option. Do phase 1, max it out to the whole 880, or do we say, I'm just making up a round number, let's dig phase 1, make the payments $500,000, and then guess what? In 2 years, we still have a little budget room in case there is a phase 2. Because if you would take the shortest payments on phase 1, well now, you have to have budget impact if a phase 2 comes up. So, am I planning for a future phase 2 for, hey, I get the phone call, the heat just died at the high school, we gotta do it tomorrow. You know, are we planning for that from the financial side as well?
Right.
Cause that will help me give you the best ideas.
Yes,
Yes?
that's what
Yes.
I'd like to see.
Me too.
I mean, I'll show it to you, it doesn't obligate you to, but again, I'm not gonna just sit, you know, try to make up what we want.
No, because we have talked about that, and we are gonna need heat, and Dave did bring that up, so yes, we would like to have a phase two
So we
within
can
a
plan
2 or
for
3 year
that
plan,
in
so
a
plan,
scenario.
yeah, so plan to keep the payments, maybe like you said, I mean, the budget neutral would be 880. You know, like if we decided to take the bond out for 10 years or 7
Something
years,
like
what are
that.
those payments? And then if, obviously, they're going to be less, and then
You have.
that gives us wiggle room to.
In the budget, if
To
the
borrow
phase
against
two
the
would
bond
happen.
again in a
If it
couple of years.
doesn't, let's say you do Woodlands and you say, hey, we're not touching the high school, and you have that drop in your payment in the future, well, I don't know that anybody's gonna complain
Correct.
about a drop in payment in some future year, but we can allocate for that, and maybe it's 3 years, maybe it's 4, till you would come back. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I can look at that. Questions about that? And again, can't do it here that quick, to come back to you. The resolution that you had tonight, can I speak to that and the process while I'm here? Yes? Yes, okay. So the resolution tonight, which, you still have the option to approve if you would like, does not obligate you to borrow money. What it does is get the process started and allows myself, your solicitor and this bond, your bond counsel right here to get the paperwork ready if you wanna borrow money in the future. There's a maximum number in there, which obviously is much higher than what you're talking about today, but it's a not to exceed number. So you could still approve that resolution to get the process started, the paperwork. We have to do that filing with the state, the DCED that we talked about, and this lovely lady handles all that paperwork for you. That takes a month. You get your approval, and then at some point in the future, you can borrow money. Resolution doesn't expire. It can sit on the shelf for a month, a year. It doesn't matter, it's still good. And that way your fees, the ads, everything that's already paid for.
Does it make sense, as the wheels are turning, to borrow the higher amount, to be able to invest what we don't use, to grow that money to help pay off the second phase?
No.
Not allowed to do that, okay?
You're only allowed to borrow, if Eric's contract comes back, and again, I'm making up numbers, don't think it's $5 million. You can borrow $5 million. You have to have a project for that amount. You can borrow less, but you can't borrow more than what you have a project.
Okay.
So if we change our motion and not table it, where it just says board approval is requested to approve the bond purchase agreement, we don't have to give a number per se, or do we have to give a number
There
today?
is a maximum number in the resolution, it was 14 million. So that number would hold, but that's a not to exceed, so you could borrow 2 million, 3 million, anything under the.
So we're not
or zero.
obligated to borrow that 14 million or start paying payments on that 14 million, that's just
It's just a paperwork
Or
scenario where we
accruing
get
interest.
things started.
Or
I'm sorry.
accruing interest.
No,
Okay.
no, there's
Yeah.
no cost to doing that, what it allows is
okay.
us to get the paperwork ready so that, you know, next month or if and when you approve a contract, we're that much closer to having the work done.
And if
Yep.
we don't approve the contract, if we don't do anything, then what? Or like, does
Then.
that just get dissolved or?
It gets dissolved and.
Okay.
And you're.
And there's no cost to that.
There would be the cost for the filing with DCED.
Yeah, the only cost that we've expended so far is advertising in the paper that's required by the Local Government Unit Debt Act. After you adopt the debt resolution, we have to file a second notice, so it's like legal advertising costs. If we would go ahead and file with DCED, it's a certain percentage of the filing amount, so we're talking about nominal numbers here. I don't get paid, generally the underwriter doesn't get paid until we close on the financing.
Okay. So then if we resolve this today, and then 2 years down the road, we do the high school project, do we have to have another resolution, or because we made that resolution for the max amount of 14, will that carry a couple of years from now?
That's a great question. The maximum amount in this resolution would still be in place, but we might wanna say, we're gonna start over and do another resolution, depending on how you wanna structure the payments.
And what the interest rates and stuff are then?
Okay, because this resolution stretches your payments out to the maximum of 20 years.
Okay.
We might say, again, hypothetical, this isn't anything I heard from you folks, I'm just giving you a scenario. Woodland in 2026. Well, you might wait 5 years to come back and do high school. Well, that 20 years that we're allowed to stretch the payments out is from when you build it. So we might want the extra years on your payments. And in a scenario like that, we would do another resolution to suit your needs.
Okay.
So we might do a new one and that one might still work, we'll just have to see.
Okay.
What other questions?
Rates drop?
Can you do something to make that happen?
I know somebody who can.
Well, it's not me.
He seems to be doing a pretty good job of it so far, anyway. without-
Well, no, you
Without
know,
firing, plow.
you've heard me before, I don't predict interest rates, I'll tell you
Okay.
where they are now, I don't make predictions. Obviously, if you're in the process of, we work on this resolution, we start working ahead, if I see something coming, which sometimes you know, sometimes you don't, I'm gonna talk with this lady over here and say, hey, interest rates dropped, are you guys still thinking about this, or interest rates are going up, do you wanna think about it quicker? We'll keep in contact. When it happens, I don't predict.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, so do we wanna still table this, or do we wanna amend our motion to go ahead and approve the bond purchase agreement?
I'm okay with amending the motion.
Amend it?
Yeah.
I'll amend my motion
So,
to.
change it back to what
To
it
approve,
was.
yeah.
Board approval is requested to approve the bond purchase agreement for the McClure Energy Savings Project.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Marilyn, you still second that? Okay. Any more discussion on this topic?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, 5.0, old new business. Anybody have anything?
I had a question. Are we posting superintendent goals online?
Are they not on it?
Mm-mm.
Our website, we're getting a new website, so like look at that, it should be on there.
Cause usually we post them, that's why I was
Yeah,
wondering.
Yeah, they should be on there.
No, they are not.
I said they should be though. Did you take that down? Okay.
Yeah, they were posted, weren't they?
It was on there, so I'll double check to see it.
Last year's were, I haven't seen this year's.
Sometimes it reverts, it just is, there's gonna be a new website, thank God, which we have to for ADA compliance, so that's gonna help us out tremendously with our everything, right?
Yep.
Any other old or new business? Thanks for bringing that up, Christie. 6.0, public comment. Anything from the public?
As you all know, I sent in a right to know request for the contract prior to the vote. Hopefully, since your solicitor's here, I was wondering if we could get an answer on that.
Our solicitor is not here.
You're not the solicitor?
She's the solicitor for the bond.
Oh, okay,
Company.
okay. So when you get a final contract that you're going to vote on because you've decided it's not a draft anymore, will you allow the public to see that prior to voting so that we have a chance to know what's in the fine print?
Isn't the solicitor drafting a response to that?
Yeah, we did talk to the solicitor on what the steps are to take. I re-asked her that with, I think, your question. She didn't get back to me by the end of today, so,
So will you hold off the vote until you have that answer and can?
well, we won't be voting until
We don't have a
August,
meeting
so I
until August
anticipate.
now anyway.
Well, I know, but sometimes, like, they get slipped in and we don't know, so I'm asking, will you hold off the vote until you get an answer from the solicitor and give the public the opportunity?
We'll have to follow what the solicitor tells us to do.
So no.
I didn't say
We
that.
didn't say no. We said we have to listen to our, be advised by our solicitor.
Well, you could say based on what our solicitor tells us, yes, we'll hold off on the vote until.
Really what she just said.
I think that's what they said.
Exactly what she said.
No, that's not what she said.
She said we'll have to wait until we hear from our solicitor.
She didn't say, you can decide if you're gonna hold off on the vote without your solicitor's input. You you say yes, we'll hold off on our vote.
We'll have an answer from our solicitor before we put forth a vote, because we would need to hear from her before we move to vote. So her direction will impact what steps we take, whether it is turned over. Certain things are able to be turned over, some things are not. If we have to follow the law, and we have to do what they tell us to do. So that is what she is checking into. I talked to one solicitor, and that solicitor sometimes has to consult the right to know solicitor versus our general solicitor. So there's multiple solicitors, so I'm not sure if she was consulting with that person, or if she had the answer, or just didn't have time to get back to me today. But she will get back to me with an answer directing us on whether we roll out the contract before it's voted on or not. Some things we can, and some things we can't. So she'll direct us.
Yeah, we asked that question at the April meeting or something like that. The May meeting, May 27th meeting, and you didn't get back, she never got back to you from then?
No, she did. She told us that ask if it was in draft. We cannot roll it out when it's in draft form. And until it's not, then.
When does it become not a draft?
That's what I'm waiting to hear from her. Like, once I get the new contract, I will send it up to her. She will review it, and final determination, she'll kind of roll all of that up together with my answer. Please be patient.
Well, I just wanna make sure it doesn't get swept under the rug, cause I see that
Nothing's
happening a
being
lot.
swept under the rug, I can assure you. Any other public comment?
I'd just like to thank the board for allowing me to interview tonight, and I'll congratulate Tony for being chosen. The other comment I would, hey, listening to all this, I really agree with what Dave said, the financial end of the project itself. What I don't agree with is Mrs. Erickson's theory, savings for a rainy day, or if the rainy day never comes. It's kind of like saying, I'm not gonna buy any groceries to starve to death, but I got $2 million in savings I don't want to touch. I'm not saying spend it all, sometimes it's feasible to spend some. Thank you, that's my.
Thank you.
I've been on this board 12 years, and a lot of things come up unexpectedly. You need that money.
Anything else from the public?
I'm not public.
No,
Can I
but we'll
speak?
listen to you.
Am I allowed to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, for everybody in this room, anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Mr. Schatz. I'm the building ground supervisor. I've dealt with a lot of situations. And I think everybody in this room owes Eric Petrazio and Ron Arribo a round of applause for their hard work and the effort they put into this project. They have went from one end of this project to the other, and they both require a lot of respect and a lot of applause and thank yous.
Anything else? Okay, 7.0 informational. What's that? I just spoke up there. Yeah, thank you. Informational. The only thing I have is every year we budget for board training, and the fact that we've got 2 new members on the board. Do we want to have, help me with his name? Will from PSBA come up and do a group board training again for us? Now, I mean, we have time in the summer where things are slow, and we can get that done fairly quickly.
I don't think it's a matter of do we want, I think it's just a matter of, yeah, we're supposed to do it.
We need to do it,
Yeah,
yes.
the board is expected to do a training, annual.
Do a training.
What's that? No, you're correct. So I can reach out to him to see what his availability is and discuss topics. If anyone has any topics that they would like, let me know.
Can you get to what we've done, and if you could kind of summarize that
Yeah, so
for
the last,
new people, and then
yeah,
maybe
the
touch on
last
new
one we
things
did
too?
was on right to know, sunshine law, and ethics.
Mhm.
So,
And we had one before that too.
Roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
that was before I was on, I think, wasn't it? roles and responsibilities.
Roles and
That was-
responsibility was the first one.
That was before I was on.
Oh, I missed it.
I did.
Oh.
Yeah, I missed that. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh.
I created a folder for it.
I was gonna say, could we change that to weekly emails?
Okay, so, before we adjourn, I'm going to put us back into executive session for a brief time to discuss the administrative compensation agreement from 3.2.
He's not voting on it.
Pardon, what?
We're not voting on it.
We're not voting, no.
No, we're not voting.
They didn't carry, so it'll have to go.
I didn't know if you were discussing.